someone with breasts and makeup on in a dress with genitals, male genitals, as a man. And they didn't think that she was a woman.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Alexis Blake. I am a trans woman and I share my life stories and opinions on social media. Before we jump into today's topic, I am literally on fire. It is so hot in the UK right now and I chose today of all days to straighten my hair. I'm melting. I want to approach this with as much sensitivity as I possibly can. If I get any facts wrong or any data wrong, please let me know in the comments below. I've just done a lot of research on it this morning and I've rewatched some of it because let me rewind. Let me rewind for a second. Let's go back to the beginning. It's 2004. Sky brings out a TV show called There Is Something About Miriam. The premise of the TV show, you have this 21-year-old beautiful Mexican model. She's stunning. This is who she is. This is what she looked like. She goes on the show. Obviously it's called There Is Something About Miriam. There is different men that are competing for her affection. They go on group dates, individual dates, kiss, they get a little bit intimate. They're sort of vying for her affection throughout the course of the series. Each episode, people are voted off by Miriam who haven't impressed her as much as the other men. Then at the end, Miriam selects a winner. And in the final episode, there was something called the big reveal. We will go more into the big reveal a little bit later on in the video. We are going to watch some of it as well. It's not aged well at all. Before we jump into reacting to some of the content from the show, which is obviously over 20 years ago now, I do want to pay my respects because Miriam Rivera is no longer with us. She did unfortunately pass away at 38 in suspicious circumstances. It was ruled as an unaliving by herself. I hate talking about this stuff. It's so heavy. Miriam's passing away was treated as suspicious. It was ruled as an unaliving, but her husband did believe otherwise. That's all I'm sort of going to cover on that. I don't want to go too much into it. I don't want to remember this fabulous, funny, charismatic, beautiful trans woman in that way because that is the punchline. That is the awful thing about this whole thing. There is something about Miriam. She was a trans woman and we'll go into how the show depicted her and treated her and how following subsequently from that, the men treat her, the media treat her. It was a whole whirlwind. The wildest thing is, I remember watching this show, which is so crazy. Let's jump in. There's Something About Miriam is a British reality television series broadcast by Sky One. The 6-episode series premiered on 22nd of February 2004 and concluded 24th of March. Set in Ibiza, Spain, the series depicted 6 men in competition for £10,000 reward over who could make the best impression on 21-year-old Mexican model Miriam Rivera. The men were required to compete in various physical challenges in addition to going on individual and group dates with Rivera. In the final episode, Rivera selected the one contestant who left the best impression on her, which was Tom, I believe. She then revealed to the contestants that she was a transgender woman who had not yet undergone gender-affirming surgery. That's not how it was worded in the final episode. We will watch the reveal a little bit later on, so just bear with me. I want to do what came before that first, if that makes sense. Let's watch an ad for the show to give you a sense of what the production team were going for. Because I could sit here and explain it from a trans woman's point of view and how I feel, but I want you to make your own opinions, let's say. So, first things first, take note of the song that is being played over the advert. I just want you to notice that.
This week, the 5 guys get set to impress.
I do fancy Miriam, yes. I'm definitely attracted to you.
The one-on-one dates get intimate.
I think he's going to go straight in for the kill. I think you're absolutely stunning.
But they're still unaware of Miriam's secrets.
A lot of testosterone flying about.
He pushed his hands on my leg. I said, can you get up and sit over there?
An all-new episode of There's Something About Miriam, tomorrow, 9 o'clock, Sky One Sunday.
Okay. So that gives you a little bit of a taster of what happened in it. Miriam, the show's footage, by the way, is really hard to find. It's been taken off air by Sky because of what's happened following the show being aired. Obviously, it was really bad. Even for the time, it came across as really bad. That's the thing. We're going back over 20 years ago. And I know we've progressed a lot in 20 years. And I think trans women do get treated with more respect now, definitely, than them. Absolutely. Is there still some issues? Yes. But we've progressed a lot as a society, which is great. However, even back then, what was socially acceptable it was still shocking, the show, when it came out. And I remember the whole nation was flabbergasted with it was just so uncomfortable to watch elements of it. One thing I want to say here as well, right out the gate, I just want to give my opinion before we watch any more of the clips. The deception level. I know some people might have an issue with that. Miriam didn't come clean to any of the boys about her true identity until the last episode. She had been intimate with them. I think it was just kissing and making out, but she hadn't gone further than that. But she hadn't told anyone. I really want to heavily stress here that this is not her fault. She was heavily influenced not to discuss this with people. She was given this opportunity as a trans woman, as a young, vulnerable trans woman, to be part of a reality TV show. She was the first trans woman on a reality TV show. It was a huge, huge deal. It was her big break, I would imagine. She would have seen it in her eyes. She would have seen this as a step into stardom, fame, success, effectively. I don't blame her at all in any way. I blame the production team. I blame the producers. I blame the director. I blame the team involved in shaping and moulding the show, because it could have been handled so much better. She was heavily encouraged not to come out to any of these boys. I have spoke about it before. I do have an issue with that personally. If I was to date as a trans woman, I would disclose that information straight away, because some people might not be attracted to trans women, and I don't find that offensive. It's just how that person relays that they're not attracted. If someone said, "You're not my type, sorry," absolutely fine. If someone acts utterly disgusted and repulsed, that's where the issue is to me. But I don't blame, again, Miriam for that, for not disclosing that. That was the team. It was also like this big trick, this big practical joke, this huge deception that inevitably left a 21-year-old trans woman out for the sharks, media. It was just, it was awful. I've spoken openly about how I was around the age of 15 when I worked out I thought I might be trans. It was the first time I'd heard the term trans properly used in a really positive way, and I was like, that relates to me. I feel like that. And that was Kim Petras. She'd done an article, I don't know if you know Kim Petras, the singer. She'd done an article about her transition, and I remember the name of the article. I'm not going to call it because it had her old name. I related and I was like, that's me. But then I was thinking this morning when I was doing my research, I was like, this is 2004. I was 11 in 2004, so 10, 11. So this was before I worked out I was trans. How did this not help me figure that out? I've said multiple times, I've not seen any trans representation until I was about 14, 15. This was a good 2, 3, 4 years earlier. What's going on, Alexis? Have you remembered things wrong? Have you misremembered? Do you not know about this part about your life? And I don't want to go too heavy, so I'm going to try and keep it a bit light, but I remember seeing this show, and genuinely, I think what I've done is I've watched a show, the way that she was treated was awful, which we will look at. The word trans wasn't used, by the way, at all in this show. It was man and woman. That's what it was. She said, "I'm a man." That, mixed with the reaction and then how she was treated after, I didn't know what trans was because it didn't show me what trans was. It showed me what all the negative stereotypes trans women are cast as is. That's what it showed. That's what it depicted. This secretive, lying, non-gender affirming, bottom surgeried, manipulative, villain, toxic, all those words, lots and lots of descriptive words. That's what it portrayed her as, in my opinion. That's not what trans is to me, and that's not what trans is to anyone, I don't think now. I saw that and thought, she's beautiful and she was born a boy. I maybe feel like that, but she's been treated awful. I can't deal with that. That's not something I want. And I locked it away until a few more years later. Kim Petras, trans, it made sense. Again, I saw how society was going to treat me. I locked it away and then transitioned at 27. That's just an interesting point I wanted to make. I'm not going to go too much more into that, but I just wanted to point out if anyone's confused with the timeline. Sorry, that was a huge side swipe. Let's go back into this. So let's watch a little bit more, shall we? A lot of these clips that I found are from the documentary that came out last year about Miriam and her passing away, unfortunately. At first I thought, am I being oversensitive? Was this showing jest? Was it light-hearted? I was trying to look at the other side. You know me, I try and always look at the other side. I'm like, am I taking this too personally? Am I being too sensitive about this? But I think everyone involved, retrospectively, is horrified with the show. So I thought, okay, maybe it's not just me being hypersensitive, because I am a trans woman, obviously. Let's watch a little clip. This is the psychologist who got involved last minute with the show to help support the big reveal.
There is the subtext of it, because from the get-go, the audience knew that Miriam was trans. On screen, we got a doctor to basically lift her skirt and make sure she was a man. Do you know what I mean? It's one, unethical and ridiculous and horrible and disgusting and so many words I could use. But she's not a man. She has male genitalia. The fact that Miriam had a penis seemed to be the punchline of the joke. That wasn't a joke, because it was Miriam, and it was her life, and it was these boys who didn't have the option to consent.
I think that's super important there, what he spoke about. Touching on the last thing that he said, these boys who were in the villa with her, who were dating her, who were kissing her, they didn't have the option to consent to being with a trans woman. I think that's inherently itself a really, really bad thing. These were all straight men, I think going back to that time, if we look back to the early 2000s, men were, again, stereotyping, generalizing here, so please don't take offense, but if we all think back, there was a lot of pressure put on men, more so back then than now, to be masculine, to be bros, to not be gay. Gay people, gay men were not viewed in a favourable way back in the early 2000s. Well, I remember, because I was a gay man I was a gay teenage boy back then. I got so bullied for it. So men were scared to be gay. Men were scared to be attracted to trans women. They didn't consent to being intimate with a trans woman, and it was all documented and filmed and going on to national TV. So that must have been really hard for them to deal with in itself. Oh my gosh, I'm melting. Okay. The scene where the doctor looked at Miriam's skirt to check she was a biological man, again, horrific. And my heart breaks for this 21-year-old trans girl who was being probably pushed and pulled around by the directors and producers. And obviously she was of her own fruition. She decided to go on that show, and I do appreciate that. When you've got all these outside people encouraging you and nudging you and pretending to be a friend and supporting you and helping you and promising the world, she went along with it. And again, she was 21. Anyway, let's watch some more. So we do have one of the former contestants sort of giving their take on the show 20 years later.
Curtain pulled over the whole show. We never heard from Miriam again. And it's so sad. And it's to think that we might have had anything to do with that. I hope we didn't.
Heartbreaking. Obviously, we don't know what fully happened at the end of Miriam's life. I think it's very courageous for him to come on the show and onto the documentary and talk about it. It's a really interesting documentary. I'll link it below if you want to go and watch it after this video. Let's watch a little bit more about what transpired on the show and some more clips from the show, shall we?
Guys, Tom, Scott, congratulations, you've made it to the very end. One of you will be offered the trip of a lifetime with Miriam and £10,000. Well, I'm going to put you out of your misery and ask Miriam to announce the winner.
Tom, you're funny, you're hilarious, and you always make me happy. Scott, you're brilliant, fantastic, and honest. But we all know one of you has to be the winner. And the winner is... Tom, you're the winner!
You know, we could kind of exhale a bit, go, right, we'd had so much fun filming it all, and we thought that was going to be it. Of course it wasn't.
Okay. So that was the final episode. That was Tom who won, who Miriam selected after going on all these dates. Again, the archive footage I found a little bit difficult to find. I think it's good that it's been pulled down. I think it's respectful that it's been pulled down. There was a lot of from the little snippets I've seen here and there in really bad uploaded videos, pixelated things. The stuff that I saw, the camera shots would zoom into her crotch, and it was just done really, really distastefully, really, really uncomfortably. It was a shock value show. That's what it was for. That's what a lot of the reality TV back in the early 2000s was. It was dramatic shock entertainment, but at what cost? And that's the heartbreaking thing. We're now going to watch the reveal. Little disclaimer, sorry if this video is heavy, it's just the nature of the video. I can't make it fun and bouncy and lively because it is a serious thing, but I want to always try and make it as digestible as possible. But one thing I will say now, if you are trans, this is a little disclaimer. The way that this next sort of scene goes, it's uncomfortable to watch as a trans woman, I found personally. I think many people will find it uncomfortable, not just trans people. But I just wanted to let you know that now before we watch it.
Before you claim the prize, Miriam has something to say.
I tried to be honest with all of you as much as I can. Yes, I'm from Mexico. I'm a model, and I'm 21. But Tom, I really love spending time with you and kissing you. You see, I love men, and I love being a woman. But I'm not a woman.
I knew it.
I was born as a man.
As soon as she said, I am not a woman, all the boys started to laugh. And that's when I thought, shit. But they weren't her words. Miriam's final reveal was written, that was scripted. I overheard a conversation about how they would work. But she said them, so they become her words. You know, I was born a man, is what she said. So they immediately thought, I've just fancied a man.
It was so incredibly uncomfortable. It felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room, and Tom just starts gasping. And as he's doing...
A lot of the boys' reaction comes down to lack of knowledge back then, lack of education, lack of the right language to use, and it also kind of boils down to trans women not being seen as people, effectively. It's a clear example of, like, looking back in the past, like, that's how trans women were thought of and like they were being filmed with a whole team of people watching them. She stood there and they laughed in her face and they laughed at Tom, and it transpires to get worse. But that, for me, I actually genuinely remember watching that scene. I remember her saying, I love being a woman, but I was born a man. I remember seeing that when I was 10 years old. It's wild. It's so wild how things stick with you like that. I'm sure everyone has things from when they were younger sort of stick with them as they grow up and they remember it and recollect it. But yeah, I mean, also on the flip side of that, I think for the boys, again, with the lack of education and understanding and knowledge of what being trans was and what it meant for their sexuality, they obviously heard her say, I'm a man, therefore they immediately thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to look gay, which at the time was seen as a really bad thing. It was looked down on, it was judged, it was criticised, it was really, really bad. So I just think, how did people not plan this? How did the produce? Well, I think they did. I think that's why the psychologist came in. But they had this great idea for this show that was dramatic shock value. I don't think they thought of what was going to happen after, how the ending was going to be perceived. But it all got to this big crescendo of Miriam revealing this scripted, very, very heavily scripted confession of her being trans. Why did no one stop or say anything? Like, this was never going to end well, was it? Let's be real. Anyway, let's watch a little bit more.
He's looking around at everybody all around him, all the crew, the production staff.
Is there anything you'd like to ask Miriam, Tom?
Well, I'm obviously shocked, as you can guess, so I don't know, really. I'm kind of lost for words, for once.
Well, it's a big shock, but it's a shock that still needs a decision. As I've said, there is a boat in the bay for you and Miriam with £10,000 on board. Miriam's waiting for an answer. Are you gonna go?
Yeah, I'll go. Of course, yeah. You know, we're all good friends here. And...
Give him a round of applause, guys.
It was the very nature of this kind of pack mentality of lads kind of shaming each other that just made everything go totally wrong.
Oh my gosh. I do want to give props to Tom there in that moment to sort of save a little bit of Miriam's dignity. I mean, Tom, all the guys, not that I agree with fully how they all handled it, but Tom in that moment, I think, handled it the best. I think having this big shock, and he clearly wasn't attracted to trans women, pre-op trans women. For him to say, yes, I'll still go, we're all friends here. I think he was trying to handle it the best he could in that situation with a camera in his face. You got the presenter pressuring him to make a decision in front of the whole crew. Like, props to him, I think, personally, in that moment, just judging him based on that moment. You could see Miriam's face light up. She was happy that she had been accepted by someone, and that in itself is heartbreaking again. He didn't end up going on the boat. From what I've seen, he didn't go on the boat. It was just her on her own, which we'll watch in a little moment. He tried to save the situation. So, yeah. Fair play. Anyway.
It would have been nice to have the money, but I wouldn't want a second more with her. I don't respect her one bit.
It was a tidal wave of emotion. At 1 minute you're consoling Tom and Scott. The next you're thinking, oh my goodness, how long have I been in this show? What have I done? It was spiralling out of control.
You could see the anger and the whole emotion in Scott's face, the red eyes and the mist. And Scott just went berserk. Absolutely lost it. And I remember the director jumping over the corner of the swimming pool, chased by Scott. And I felt sorry for anybody behind one of his punches.
That's when the penny dropped with Remy. You could just see him going, oh, and I was like, Remy, make yourself scarce, because they're going to kill you.
So the boys are mad. So looking at it from their perspective and their point of view, do I think they handled it well? I don't think some of the language was very nice. I think the way that the guy spoke then about, he was basically repulsed by Miriam, and the anger to be sort of deceived and tricked. I appreciate that aspect, the frustration and the upset and the anger that they had. I can understand why. How it came across in some moments was really sort of uncomfortable to listen to. There's a little bit more, because we're not over yet. This is not the end of the reveal. I just can't imagine being that 21-year-old trans woman in that situation, like, because everyone was blaming her, and she didn't create the show. She didn't come up with the premise of the show. She kept it a secret, but she was heavily instructed to do so. Let's watch a little bit more about it, but again, it's just heartbreaking, isn't it?
And I need to do something now to calm this down, and what the do I say that's going to make this any better? They were like, I'm going to her. No, whoa, boys, right? Just saying. Yes, she didn't tell you something, but it's not her. This is not on her. You people you're angry with is the crew, and that's who they were angry with, is the crew. The people round about them that they become friends with, that they felt had betrayed them, who were in on the biggest practical joke in the world.
It started to all hit home a bit. And then the language changes again. It's not fun language now. It's are you okay language. What do you mean am I okay? It was a prank. Was it a prank? Hang on a minute, this is... What's going on here? No, hang on a minute. And it all starts sinking in. Everything that we've done, and we thought we were having fun, it feels like maybe they've just got their kicks, and we were kind of just collateral damage.
I began to get a little bit more annoyed on the boys' behalf, sort of thinking, no one's understood who these boys are and how big an impact this could have on their life. Tom in particular was confused about how his sexuality would be portrayed. He said, he's an actor. I can't be a gay actor, because at that time, 20 years ago, the boys saw someone with breasts and makeup on in a dress with genitals, male genitals, as a man. And they didn't think that she was a woman.
I would say sorry because I lied to them. Not only Tom, to the other boys too. And my message for them will be, I'm a human being and I'm a normal person, and don't judge people for what they are outside, judge people for what they are inside.
Oh my gosh. Sad to watch, isn't it? I think to see such a vulnerable young trans woman, like, I don't blame her and I don't blame the boys. I blame the production team, I blame the director, I blame the people who created the show, but it was an absolute storm. Following on from that, I swore quite a lot in this video. Following on from that, we did have multiple news articles obviously report about it once the secret was revealed in the final episode, because the thing is, the audience knew the whole time Miriam was trans. So it was in episode 1, at the start of episode 1, it was known to the viewers at home she is trans, so it probably almost felt like a joke for the boys, and obviously it would have heavily affected their lives following on from that. A couple of the news articles at the time, I don't even want to say these out loud. Lurid headlines included, "Oi Miriam, you bloke the rules," and "Big mistake." It's just so frustrating how when Miriam went in, the boys were hypersexualizing her because she was seen as a woman. And then she was seen as a trans woman, which was a man who was the villain. And she was perpetuated in all of the articles at the time. She was the picture. She was this evil, nasty person that had done this awful, horrendous thing. She'd lied and tricked these men into kissing her, which, yes, she was dishonest, but again, the focus was on the wrong person. She got all of that hate. And I've looked into some articles and testimonies written by friends and people that know her, and they said it broke her. It broke her eventually. Unfortunately, that led to her passing away in 2019. What are your thoughts on this? I'd be really interested to know what people think about how it was handled. I think I'm probably quite sensitive to a lot of this, being a trans woman myself, and I remember seeing this as a teenager, so sorry if that sensitivity has come across in a lot of the video. I'm trying as hard as I can to not sort of put my own anger and frustration into the situation. And I try to look at both sides, from both Miriam's point of view and the boy's point of view, and I can understand how that was detrimental to their life as well. What do you think? I'd be interested to know if we can keep the comments as nice as possible, as I always say, just to have a healthy, positive conversation about it. But thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this kind of content, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I post 1 to 2 videos every week of just me, and me and my partner Liam have a podcast that is bi-weekly called The Blake Debate here on this channel as well. Thank you again so much for watching. It might have been a harder video today, but it is a heavier topic, unfortunately. I think we're in a lot better place. That's something I want to finish on right now. We're in a lot better place now. We do have the reality TV show now, Married at First Sight, and Ella Morgan, a beautiful, fabulous, funny, sweet trans woman who I met recently, was on that show. I've not actually watched it, believe it or not. I've been told by so many people to watch Married at First Sight. I think I've seen clips of it, but I've not seen Ella specifically on there. But that was handled much better, apparently. I believe people were told ahead, and it was just a much better situation. And it's fabulous to see a trans woman go on reality TV and be successful, and it be received positively, and her to thrive afterwards. I absolutely love that. So anyway, let me know if you want me to react to that, because I've not seen it yet. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye. Bye.